forget. And as we go through, if you do have any questions, there is a chat function. If you haven't actually used Zoom before, there's a chat function down the bottom of your screen if you just want to pop your questions in there, and then Gabby and Stephen will get to them in due course. But I'd just like to introduce our guest tonight, or this morning, for Gabby, who's kindly got out of bed very early for us from her home in the Netherlands. Thanks for being with us, Gabby. We really, really appreciate you being here. And I'm going to hand over to Stephen now to get things rolling.
Awesome. Yeah, well, very much thanks to Gabby for being here with us for this Zoom meeting. Should be really cool. I've never done one of these, so hopefully it works.
Thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah, awesome. So just saying off air before that, yeah, this is a little bit different from Mike and Riku last week, as they know each other fairly well, but myself and Gabby have not met prior to this, although we have been at a couple of similar events over the last year. But yeah, anyway, so thanks very much. I'm really looking forward to getting into some of these topics that we've got. All right, how do we start this? I guess just start at the beginning. So yeah, that's right. So time to dredge up some repressed memories. So I guess the real beginning is when did you start? What age were you when you started shooting?
So I started shooting when I was 11, I believe. No, I was 11 and a half, let's put it like that. In Mexico, they were opening a new training center where I used to live when I was young, and they were trying to find people. They were trying to find people to fill up the training center, kind of. And they went to my school and they tested all the kids. I was in elementary, and they tested all the kids to see who was talented, and I wasn't, for real, I wasn't. But my brother was, and they wanted my brother to join archery, but my brother was also selected to for a lot of sports. He was a baseball player before, so he was really agile. He knew how to throw a ball. He was really strong for his age and stuff like that, and everyone wanted it in their team. And they were kind of like, if we invite the sister, the chances of getting the brother in the team as well is really small, right? And they invited me to see if they could get my brother, and my brother was not interested in that. And I started going to archery. In the beginning, I didn't really know what it was, and because in the first few days, we, like, in Mexico, I don't want to say we're really poor, but in that moment we were, because they were just opening the facility and stuff like that. And the first I don't know, 3 months, we were just with a rubber band and we were just like simulating a shot and stuff like that. And like after 3 or 6 months or something like that, we got our hands on our bow and stuff like that. And that's the way I started.
So you went straight from having never done archery, never shot a bow before in your life. You went straight into a national training facility, or just a training facility for the purpose of getting good at sport.
Yeah. It was just like, I'm sorry?
At 11 years old or 11 and a half years old.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because like, it was like, in Mexico we have this competition every year. It's called the Olympic Nationals, and they were preparing us for the Olympic Nationals. So we had like a period of 6 months to prepare for the Olympic Nationals. But you need to know that in those 6 months, we shot with the bows for like 2 months, and those, we got results and stuff like that. And eventually we started getting more into more competitions and stuff like that. And it was kind of funny because from knowing nothing to winning medals in like of course I was 11 years old, so I didn't compete with like Aida or Alejandra. I competed with Alejandra because Alejandra and me are the same. We are the same age, but
So what distance? What was this at? This might help us.
I think in that moment we still shot FITA, It was 50, 40, 30, and 20 meters, I think. It was like with the infants. So we were like with people that was like 11 or less or something like that.
And so that was
Yeah.
your start in archery was doing short 50, 40, 30, 20 or
Yeah.
feature distances.
Yeah.
14, 14.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. That was basically this. Yeah, like the beginning is not that interesting, I think.
No, I think it's extremely interesting because, I mean, here in New Zealand, your beginning is you wanted to try archery, so you find yourself an archery club and you go along and do one of the introductory courses, and then at the end of it, they just look at you and say, "Oh, so do you like archery now?" Now you go buy your own gear. and
I find it pretty funny because here in the Netherlands it's like that as well. Like for me, it was really, I don't want to say weird, but it was a little bit weird to see that there were people that was like 50 and was like, oh, this is the first time I try archery, and like I get a 1,000 euro bow because I can, and then I try to shoot and stuff like that. But in Mexico, it was the other way around. In Mexico, it's kind of like we like a person need to tell you that you had a chance to become an archer or something like that before you knew you could do it, kind of. In my time, now it's a little bit different. Now there's people that gets that can go to the field and ask to shoot.
Right. But you didn't approach it as I want to try archery type sport. It was just no.
I got to be honest, I didn't really know what it was. And like when I got selected, I got a letter that was like, oh, you are selected to do archery, kind of. And my mom, well, in that moment, was at home. She normally worked before, and she was at home because she just had an operation. And I was like, "Hey, mom, look, I got a letter that says that I'm selected for archery." And she was like, "Oh, what's that?" I need to say that my parents still don't know the difference between recurve and compound yet. So yeah, my family doesn't.
My mom does.
Yeah, my parents were like aren't really into archery or anything.
So, well, that's amazing. So from that moment on, so you're 11 and a half, you started this program. How long, and did it just, you just got more serious and better and older and bigger and stronger, and you just kept going through right up until basically Rio? Is that basically the progression?
So I kept shooting like until I was like 16. And when I was 16, my parents got a divorce, and it was kind of like the situation in my house was kind of complicated. So my coach in that moment, it was a Chinese guy. He was like, "Hey, I think that there's a lot of things in your home that are not good at the moment. Are you interested on coming here and like living here in the training center and like start like you can start to take this a little bit more serious, you know?" And I was kind of like my house was a mess, so I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, why not?" You know. And thanks to him, I started taking archery a little bit more serious. And that was in 2010. I started in 2005. And in 2011, I made the pre-Mexican team. And I need to go to, I used to live in Tijuana, that is in the north of Mexico. And then I moved to Mexico City with the seniors, with the senior team.
Right. So before then, you were just still living at home, still going to school, and then
Yeah.
spending time at a training center after school to shoot until you were 16.
Like until I was 16. Yeah.
And then after that, you became a resident athlete, so you became full. Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
In Mexico City.
Yeah.
How was that? Did you still have school during that time? Was that you were still studying, or was it just archery?
So I studied from 11, sorry, not from 11. Don't think that. I started from like I studied until like high school, like And then I quit for a little bit because in Mexico it was really difficult to do school and archery in that time. And then I picked it up, and then like I did university. Well, I moved here and I still didn't graduate. But yeah.
Wow, interesting. And I guess because what I wanted to really do was to talk about how you trained in Mexico versus how you train now, because although people are really interested in how you train now, and that's obviously a great discussion, you're not a product of your training now, you're a product of all your training from when you were 11 to where you are now. So all of it goes into the pyramid basically of what makes you, you know, your archery sort of knowledge. So I'm quite interested in what your training was like at that training center in terms of like the real basics, hours, you know, how many hours a day, how many arrows, all that sort of nonsense, that dry, boring stuff. It is quite interesting for us.
Well, when I became professional, well, I don't want to say professional, but like when I started taking archery a little bit more serious, I started shooting like 6 hours a day or something like that, like 8 hours a day. I used to shoot when it just started, like you need to build it, you know. And I first started with 300 hours a day, and in the beginning it was just blank bale, and then 500 blank bale as well. Then later on, there were some days of where I used to shoot like 800, 700, and
Wow.
I used to shoot a lot. Yeah, like now I see that myself, and I'm like, wow, as well.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing. And so it was a lot of blank bales, so just a lot of fitness,
yeah,
just drilling it into you.
yeah. And then like yeah, it was like my days were basically like 600, 700, 400. Like there are some days like when I was preparing for the Olympics, I shot like a day 1,000 arrows, like 1,000 arrows. And
Wow.
yeah, like it's really, it depended on the season, you know, like on the time that yeah.
So that sort of leads into the next little bit of a question. So in terms of your training day, how much was split up between shooting arrows versus something like gym work, extra gym work? I mean, shooting arrows all day gives you really imbalanced shoulders. So how you manage injury, all that sort of stuff. So what would be your percentage sort of split between arrows shot? I've got it written down here. Like arrows shot, weight training, mental training specifically, anything like that?
So I think that is like shooting was almost everything. We shot like 70% of the time. Maybe 25% of the time was strength training, like gym and stuff like that. And the other 5% we used it as a like we used to go to the psychology, like psychologists, and stuff like that. And in the 70% of the time that we used to shoot, we also did like a lot of bow training, a lot of bow training. And
Portrait.
yeah, and yeah, shoot.
Because you're so your national coach in the training center. Where were they from? Was it a lot of countries had Korean coaches back then, or was where was he or she from?
My first coach was a Cuban. In
Yep.
Mexico, they tried to get some other people from that have more experience in archery, kind of. The first one was a Cuban. The second one was another Cuban. I had like 3 or 4 Cubans in the beginning, and then a Chinese, and then 3 Koreans, and now Mike. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I was just doing a little bit of just quick YouTubing on watching you shoot, basically, just to have a quick look at, you know, how you shoot, your technique, and that's very, very efficient. And I was just interested in like your training's obviously tons and tons of arrows. Were your coaches always sort of hovering over you and telling you to do this or that? How close were they to that process?
Like, it's pretty funny because I feel like in all those years that I used to live in Mexico, I always, like, archery was my job, and like my coach, like, they made sure that I knew kind of that they were my bosses, you know, like they planified my day, they almost did everything for me. Like, I didn't need to make any choices. If there was a problem with my bow, I always relate to them, and yeah, it was kind of like a love-hate relationship, you know, like they were really always having control of my life.
Right. So they would tell you what you were doing, when you were doing it. Wow.
Yeah.
And so I did have a quick question about equipment. Were your equipment set up? Were you just told to shoot a certain thing, or did you picked out the gear you wanted to shoot, or were they like, no, you shoot your bow, it's set up like this, that's it?
Well, I would say that until the Olympics, I was always told what to do and how to do it, and even with like bow setup and everything. And yeah, I think that there's a Gabby like that was like before the Olympics and after the Olympics, you know, like before the Olympics, I was always like listening to what they were telling me, and like not trying stuff, because like I was always afraid of changing or taking my own decisions, because I didn't know if what I thought was correct, you know. So like until 2016, I did like the Korean bow syrup kind of, and now I just try stuff and see what I like and see what works the best for me.
Right. And I guess going on from there, with that, under that system, I guess, sorry, two questions. So how did you qualify for the Rio Games? Was that a team spot, or was that individual?
There was a team quota. Like my teammates won it in 2015 in Copenhagen, and then later on I took the place of one of the girls, like Aida. I don't know if you know the archers from Mexico. It's like Aida and Alejandra, and there was another one that became me. Like they had won the quota, and then I qualify in like as internal an internal how do you call it?
Selection event.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's cool. And so what sort of scores were you shooting back then? Just real bland 1440, and did you shoot 720s only or 1440s or both?
720s only. 720s only. I don't think that my scores were really high. Like, well, they were high enough to qualify. Like I think that the last internal competition that we had between all the archers, I got the best result. But like, you need to see that there's a lot of tension in those moments, kind of. So I think that I shot 666 or something like that to qualify, and we need to shoot like there were like 15 internal competitions to see who was the best and who
15.
Yeah, we had a lot of competitions. Yeah.
Wow. And so did of those 15 events, did it all sort of, you gain points for your placings in each one?
Yeah.
And so it was a long.
Yeah.
How long did that process take? So how long from the first to the last?
Like a year. Like
a year to qualify the team.
Like they first start with 16 archers, then 8 per category, you know, like 16 women and 16 men, and then 8, and then from those 8 they make a cut of 4.
Wow. Oh, that's great. I mean, selection is always a hot topic around here with how things are done, because we seem to make it up as we go along. And we don't have the luxury of having so many archers.
I see some faces smiling here.
Oh, I can't see them. I can't see anyone else. That's probably good. That's probably a good thing. They're probably flipping me off. But yeah, that's super, super interesting. And so much of what we in New Zealand hear about how other countries train, like, oh, the Koreans do this, the Chinese do this, so much of it is sort of hearsay. We, unless we've actually been there or someone that's done it, we hear crazy stories about the arrow volume that you guys do and whatever. And it's really interesting to me when you actually get to meet someone and actually cold hard facts. This is how we trained, and it's really interesting. It's quite depressing sometimes as well, with just how much work
No,
you've got into it.
don't feel that way. Don't feel that way. It's like I gotta be honest. Like when I started, when I moved here, I wanted to keep up my shooting. Like, oh no, Mike used to make fun of me. I was like, I need to shoot 300 arrows today, and he was like, Gabby, why? What for? And he was like, I'm pretty sure that after 100, you're just gonna shoot to shoot, And I was always like I really thought that if I shot a lot of arrows, I was going to become better, but it's not actually like that.
So this is great. So this we're starting to transition now from Mexico to the transition to the Netherlands, which is awesome. And yeah, I don't think we mentioned this on the non-recorded whatever this is, Zoom call. So you have an individual place for Tokyo 2020-ish that you won at it was the European Games with a
European Games, yeah.
Yeah. And that's an individual place. I mean, is it for the Netherlands? Any archer, but they're just like, well, you won it, it's yours. Is that how?
I'm not allowed to give that information. No, I'm kidding. No, it is for the country. Last year they kind of gave the names of who was gonna go to the Olympics, and the other three guys and me were selected. But now the situation changed it a little bit, and I'm going, but we are not sure if the Olympics are still happening. So we kind of let's keep it between us 20. Okay.
Yeah, we're in a similar situation. It's kind of weird. Weird for everyone at the moment. So, sorry, when did you move to the Netherlands? I actually don't know that.
I moved just after the Rio Olympics in 2000. Well, I moved in 2017, and the Olympics were in 2016.
Right, and so you obviously had your stand down period when you weren't allowed to represent another country. But I take it that was always in your mind that you were going to represent Netherlands if you knew you were a good enough shot. So it was just a matter of time, or it didn't factor into.
I gotta be honest. In Mexico, I like it was my job there as well. Like in Mexico, I was also really well paid, and I was in the team. That was really important because in Mexico, because there's so many archers, it's difficult to make the team. So if you make the team, it's like a really big achievement. So for me, it was not an option in the beginning because I was like, okay, maybe I can move to the Netherlands. But later on, well, Mike and I were just a year when we decided to move together, but it was kind of difficult to keep with their relationship because we need to travel, and it was like a 24-hour trip when we need to see each other. So if in Mexico they asked me to come for training or to do something with the team, maybe I wasn't allowed to do it. So I first asked the coaches there, is there a chance that I can be in team living in the Netherlands? And they were kind of not really. If we need you and you need to be here on Monday, and we tell you Sunday that you need to come here, you need to be here, otherwise you're gonna lose your spot. And I was like, okay, let me see what my options are. And I call with Ron Van der Hof. He's like a coach from here, and I was like, hey, I talked to him, and I was like, hey, is there a chance for me to compete there, or is there a chance for me to work together with you or do something? And they're kind of like, let me see, I'll call you later. And later that day, they gave me the news that they were interested on me being part of the team.
Wow. And so that was in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as soon as you moved, or before you moved, you were looking at.
Before I moved, because I was like, if I cannot be in the team there, I'm not gonna move. I'm sorry.
Wow. Wow. Fascinating. So your shooting was still very high up in your, I mean, it's your job, but it was still a big part of the decision to move over was, could you continue?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, of course. I think that I wouldn't have done the take, like, it was really difficult for me because I was in the team for like, I don't know, like 7 years or something like that. So it was really difficult for me to leave. But I was kind of like, just like, you're going to a first world country, just do it.
Well, that's crazy. So I guess moving on from that, so you're now in the Dutch team, part of their national setup. And I guess that's a full-time job?
Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Right. And so how, I mean, I'm sure it's quite different from how it was in Mexico. So yeah, what are the differences? What's your training like in the setup?
Okay, yeah. Well, like in Mexico, like I just told you, I used to like train every day, shoot like a bunch of arrows, and like archery was basically it. And when I moved here, I wasn't in a training center anymore. I was like living with someone that does archery as well, but it's kind of like, you know, that compounds that don't need to train a lot. So does Riku.
I'm glad
but it was really difficult for me in the beginning to like go train and go do stuff. First of all, because I was in a different country, like where I didn't know where the training field was, where I didn't know anyone that could like help me out, because like in the first year I was here alone like most of the time, because Mike was always competing outside. So I was like only at home, you know, like I was only having contact with my father-in-law, with my mother-in-law, and like they used to shoot as well, but they also had their lives, and like, I mean, it was really difficult for me, I gotta be honest. But then later on, I kind of found my own way, you know what I mean? Like I started like going to the field by myself, and I started training by myself. But it's really difficult to train if you are alone, kind of. I don't know if you guys have the same problem, that is kind of like, oh, like you guys come back from work, and you guys are kind of like, oh, today I need to train. So for me, it was kind of like that, but without working, you know. And and it was really difficult in the beginning, but then later on, like after that period of 12 months, I could compete again, and I could like go out to shoot and go to competition, stuff like that. And like I think I did pretty good. Like I think I know like how many, like arrow counting wise, like I know how many arrows I need to shoot to like don't get like bad, or how would you say that, like to keep up kind of with my level.
Just stay
I
at that
had
level.
to stay in the level. And
So, oh, sorry. So what is your, I mean, we got a snapshot of your training in Mexico in terms of the hours. Sorry, I'm trying to read it. I'm trying to read a message that came up.
Me too. I'm sorry. I was like, what?
I didn't see the end of it. Something about how hard it was to move from another country and then literally just try to, that first year must have been really, really tough trying to find your feet and how you're going to carry on before you got into the rhythm of it. It sounds like you figured it out. So what sort of percentages now is your, what sort of your percentages now are shooting, other physical training, mental training? How has that changed from the early years?
Well, I also didn't go from like I said in the beginning, I was really close to my Mexican like stuff, kind of like I was like really like, oh, I really want to keep up and I'm gonna try to shoot like a bunch of arrows and stuff like that. But that was not possible because then I was the only one that was gonna be in the shooting field the whole day, you know, like I was the only one that was gonna be there, and everyone would look at me like, what is she doing? Why is she shooting so many arrows? Because in that time I didn't have like now we have a garden where we can shoot, but in that time we didn't, like I needed to go to a club and stuff like that. And for me it was kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, you know. And in the beginning Mike was always like behind me telling me like, you don't need to shoot that many arrows, like why are you shooting so many arrows for? Like it was kind of like I was battling between what I thought that it was good and what people told me that was good, kind of. And it was really difficult at the beginning. But then later on I was like kind of like, okay, I don't need to shoot that many of arrows, but how many arrows do I need to shoot, you know? So at the moment I shoot like maybe 200, 150 a day, but I shoot every day. In Mexico I used to have like breaks on a weekend, but like now we shoot every day. Now with Corona we shoot a little bit less. Like I gotta be honest, we shoot like, I shoot a little bit more than Mike, but I shoot like yeah, like 150 a day maybe or something like that. But yeah, like I shoot and now I concentrate in like every shot I make, you know.
So now it's a quality over quantity approach compared to,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And do you do other physical training? You lift weights, go for runs,
Yeah,
anything like that?
we, like I say always we because I train with Mike. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry if it sounds a little bit annoying, but we
No.
do archery, we do shoot every day, and we work out 3 times a day, 3 times a week, not a day. Not a day, 3 times a week. We do weightlifting twice a week and 1 day of cardio.
Ah, very cool. And yeah, so you feel that you're now shooting is the best. I mean, this year's been ridiculous, but I mean, you said last year was your best year as an archer ever. You feel that?
Yeah, like we were talking about it before we started all this Zoom stuff. Um, like I really think that I like last year was my best year because I could combine what I knew from Mexico and what I knew from here. And like I feel like in the beginning it was really difficult for me to move here. So I was really focused on what was bad about moving here, and that I was like kind of sad because I miss my family and stuff like that. And then this year it felt, well, last year it felt like I settled, you know, like it felt like I was like that it was me again, you know. So it kind of felt like that I grew as a person and that I grew as an archer as well. I feel like it was more like emotional. It was like more me growing as a person, but that complemented my archery as well.
Fascinating. Do you do anything else? You just shoot arrows? You just shoot a bow, or do you have any other hobbies?
So in the beginning, and almost like, well, not in the beginning, but like in last year, I did like Dutch lessons because I wanted to learn Dutch because I because I because I didn't know any Dutch. So I was kind of
Oh,
like,
right.
Gabby,
Yeah.
now is the time. Yeah, now is the time. You need to learn it. Like if you're gonna live here your whole life, you need to do it. So I did like a course in the beginning. It was like 6 months or something like that. And I think it's really good to have something other than archery, you know. Our life is really like, we do all our things we do are archery related. So when I went there to the lessons, I was kind of like, I felt like there were some other persons that were in the same situation I was and stuff like that. So it felt good to have something else than just archery.
Got some
And
non-archery
for the
things.
rest, like after that, I didn't do anything. Like now, I just like this year I wanted to concentrate only in the Olympics. So I was kind of like, yeah, just training and just doing archery related things.
Cool.
It's also complicated to do a lot of things when you travel a lot, you know, like when you're
Yeah.
always away, it's difficult to do other things.
So I guess some more dry statistics type things. So if this wasn't COVID, how many trips do you think you would have away from home for tournaments this year? If this was a normal year for you, how often are you away shooting?
So like it was funny, like I already did like 4 trips this year with like, even with COVID. I think that that's quite a thing because they canceled the whole season in April. So like I shot 3 or 4 competitions before that happened. And I think that I do maybe 15 or something like that, 15 trips a year. I don't do that much as Mike, because Mike is like, or Riku. Riku is also pretty high there, you know.
Yeah, compound is more
Because
option.
they compound, yeah, they have a lot of competition. So no, I just do like the world archery stuff and some other competitions.
They get to do fun stuff. We just have to shoot 70 meters all the time. Sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just trying to go through a couple of questions I've got. I've got one on your warm-up. Do you have you've got a really set warm-up that you've always used, and how long does it take?
I think that I do like a 10, maximum 10 minutes warm-up. Like I actually want to do it now. No, I'm kidding. It's like I just make sure that I'm ready for it, you know. Like there was a moment when I moved here, actually, like nobody warm-ups here, nobody. Like I think that like nobody learned it. And when I was in Mexico, we always used to do, like, we used to run and stuff like that before we shot. And I knew that, you know, and when I came here, I was like, nobody warm ups here. Why should I warm up? And then I started having problems with my body, and I was like, maybe it's not a good idea skipping warm up. So I think it's really important. So you guys know.
Most compounders, their first warm up is their first draw of the day. That's the standard. The standard warm up. You yell, there we go.
Yeah,
Now we're warmed up. That reminds me of my comp shooting for sure. Awesome. So
a bit there if I can, Stephen, because we've got a few questions that have come through on chat. Because I'm assuming you can't see them. Is that right?
Yeah, I see them flicking across, and I try to catch them, but I've obviously missed a few.
Okay, so Rika would like to know, Gabby, what is your most special achievement to date?
I think it would be like being in at the Olympics. I think that the Olympics are really like, we're like a really something that really marked my career, you know, something that really made me want it to be better. And yeah, like I think that there's a Gabby before and after the Olympics. So I think that that's one of my biggest achievements.
Awesome. So we've got a question here also from Kelly. Kelly, do you want to give us a wave? Do you want to actually unmute yourself and ask your question directly? I'll put you on the spot.
Hola, Gabby. I was just
Hola.
what's been keeping you grounded, and what are you enjoying outside of archery? So being in New Zealand, I'm not from New Zealand. I'm from the US. I moved here a bit like you, I moved here to be with my partner. And that's a really tough thing to do. I know exactly how tough that is. And you have no one else in the country that you know except for your partner. And
I got like goosebumps.
But stick with it because it's totally worth it. I've been here for 18 years so far. So
Wow.
yeah, and there was a child that just came in a little bit ago. Very fun. But I'm just wondering what it is that that's keeping you going, especially in this COVID year when you have your archery and you can do it at home, which is wonderful. But I'm sure you found some other things that are helping to keep you going besides archery. So what's keeping you going right now?
First of all, we are from the same part of the world, so I think that now, like, I think that I love the sport, you know, I love archery, and like I really like, I wake up every day and I'm like, okay, what can we do today to make it more fun? You know, like there's some days that like where I'm like here, and there's some other days that I'm like, you know, like, oh no, today's not the day, and like the motivation is gone sometimes, you know. But I feel like it's kind of like when you love what you do, it does not really feels like a punishment, you know. So it feels like for example, I don't know anything else in archery, so for me it's kind of like, yeah, I love it. So it's kind of like just like, I don't know, like it's just what it is, you know. And like now I have a dog, and like it's kind of like, you know, like I feel like for example, I don't want to say that my dog is like the same as your kid, but like I'm pretty sure that things change it when you got a kid, you know. So like I feel like my doggy is helping me a lot in these hard moments, you know. Like my I always ask like my husband for a dog, and I was kind of like, oh, please, let's get a dog, let's get a dog, you know? And he was kind of like, no, we're always traveling, and no, we're always doing, like, we're always away, and there's no time for it, you know? And now I feel like now that we have time for it, like when you have a dog, it's like always what he's gonna do is unexpected, you know? So it kind of helps me to go through the day.
Awesome, thanks, Gabby. Lots of support for the no warm-up policy. No surprise that that's Riku's policy. Jordan, I think maybe you
not
should
agreeing with that. I'm not agreeing with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so keep the questions coming on chat, people, if you have them. And Stephen, do you have any more questions?
No, I mean, if people are doing stuff on, if people are coming up with questions, that's good. I mean, I was just running through the list, and yeah, the big things that I was really interested to know is, like you said, there was the Gabby before, you know, and the Gabby now in terms of what you've learned. So if you could go back and start again with your archery with all you've learned from, you know, shooting in 2 different countries with 2 different complete setups, what would you change? Like, if you could start archery again with what you know now, how would you approach it? Would you approach it differently, or would you do it exactly the same way?
Well, I would say that I would like to be more independent since, like, from the beginning, you know, because like I said, like in the beginning, it was just like what my coaches said and what they said was good for me, you know. So like for me, it was kind of like the only thing that I would change, it was like, it would be like being more independent and being a little bit more, yeah, like, yeah, just being more independent. Because when I arrived here, I didn't really know anything about like tuning, and I didn't really know anything about, yeah, I didn't know anything, to be honest. I really didn't. Like, I just knew like how to shoot and how to make a knocking point, and that was it, you know. But yeah, I've been learning a lot now that I'm here.
I see on your little bio that you also coach. Is something you've started since you moved to the Netherlands? Pretty sure I said something.
No, I'm a coach because I went to one of the competitions with Mike, so they wanted to pull me. They want me to put me in like in the competition. They wanted to give me like an accreditation to go in the competition. So I'm like just like
You're
yeah,
only coach compound.
yeah. I only coach compound.
That's cool. Anyone else got anything they want to stick in the chat? I'm pretty much through my don't want to keep you from your breakfast.
Hey Gabby, so I'm Riku. Nice to meet you. Just a question that I have for you. I mean, I'm finding it very tricky thinking about what could be next for me as well. Obviously, you guys will have the Olympics-ish, as Stephen pointed out before, but what other competition are you sort of preparing yourself for if something could happen in the next few months and you could be able to travel?
Well, I think that the whole indoor season is really important for me. When I was in Mexico, that's something it changes as well. Like when I was in Mexico, I didn't have the chance to shoot indoors because in Mexico, like it's the same that like for you guys, you know, like there's always good weather and there's always sunny and there's no like why should we shoot indoors, you know, like if we have like 70 meters and we can like always be outside. And for me, when I came here and I started shooting indoors, I saw that I could that I was good at indoors as well, and I never tried it in my life, so I was kind of like, okay, that's cool. And like the whole indoor season is really important for me now because then there's where I get like there's where like let's put it like that, like there's where I get like more money, and there's where I get more like a base of like like it, there's so many indoor competitions that you're always shooting one every weekend. So for me, it's really like interesting to do that, and I really think that my level goes up. Like when I come from indoors to outdoors, everything that is like a really easy transition for me, more than just being shooting outdoors the whole year. So for me, it's really the indoor season, the whole indoor season is really important. And I don't want to say that I'm only like that my focus is only to one competition, but like now in this situation it's a little bit difficult and because in this situation it's really difficult to say this is a competition that I'm like my target is this competition, you know. So I really think that it's just like the whole indoor season. It's like if we have indoor season, you know what I mean? Like now in this time, it's really difficult to know what's gonna happen. So
yeah, so because for me personally, the way I'm trying to see it, and I think we're even further away from traveling than you guys possibly, but for me, I'm sort of trying to keep a possibility in my own mind that hey, you could actually travel next week. I know it sounds ridiculous, but in my head, I'm trying to keep that window open, because otherwise I just lose faith that, you know, you could be traveling. So I'd sort of live in a little bit of a dream world up in my head for a little bit, and then hopefully we can travel kind of thing. So is that the same that you and Mike has been doing as well?
yeah, like, you know, like when this all started, like Mike was really like against like everything, you know. He was kind of like, oh, I don't want to train because I don't know what's gonna happen. Like I think that it happened to you guys as well, because like it didn't happen to me in that moment, because I was kind of like, no, we will shoot competitions maybe next month. I need to keep training because we will have competitions next month, and then next month, and then afterwards I was like 6 months later I was like, and then when is gonna be the next competition? I didn't really know what was gonna happen, you know. And I like a couple of weeks ago I was kind of like, I'm not motivated anymore. Like I feel sad. I want to go to Mexico. I miss my family. Like I've been saying that I'm gonna go to Mexico for like 6 months, and like I haven't been there. And like now it feels like I feel more homesick. Like it is really difficult to keep on at this moment, you know, like it's really difficult to be motivated and stuff like that. But I feel like it's kind of like you can have like 2 or 3 bad days, and then later on you need to pick up yourself and say, hey, okay, maybe there's no competitions, maybe we are not going to travel until 2050 or something like that. Well, that's maybe too much, but like but like you need to be like, you need to have the compromise with yourself, and you need to like be, yeah, like try to motivate yourself in certain ways.
I suppose the other thing, I'm asking a lot of things now, sorry, Stephen and everyone, but I think, and that's probably a good thing with COVID as well, because I sort of found with me when I obviously broke through that whole pro thing and, started shooting a lot of competitions, it kind of consumed my way of thinking, because I'll literally get on a plane and then you'll be flying somewhere in the world, then you'll be shooting that competition, you have this major letdown or something didn't go quite the way you wanted, but then you come back and you have a couple of weeks again and then you fly again, and everything sort of evolved very quickly, and everything happened very, very quickly. And I think when I saw you guys in Vegas, I kind of said to you, I was quite homesick as well, because I haven't seen my kids and my family. And then COVID happened. And I think, although I hate the position that everyone is in with COVID, I think that's the cool thing that sort of happened as well. We got time to experience just back into family life as well. I mean, you said before you got the dog, and I think...
Well, you did, I didn't. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, fair enough. No, but you kind of didn't. And it's like, I actually plan to go to South Africa this year for the first time in quite a long time, to go and see some of my family. And I couldn't do that this year, but I got to spend more time, quality time with my family for a little while and focus on a few other things. And like, I've been following you and Mike with the dog, and when you got it as a puppy, and I could tell that was something that you probably both were missing out for a long time. And I suppose that's a positive to look at, like you mentioned before. And I think everyone's got to find that too.
Yeah, like I gotta be honest, like in the beginning when this all started, we were waking up, like we do only archery, so we didn't have any routine, we didn't have anything else to do, because all our season was planned. Yeah, what we like, you normally planify everything before everything starts, right? So we were kind of like, I think it was like March or something like that, and in between March and April we have like a time to rest a little bit and to do other stuff and stuff like that. And when we saw that World Archery was canceling everything, we were kind of like, now what? Like now what are we gonna do? Like we don't have a B plan, or we don't have like we don't know what's gonna happen. So in the beginning we were waking up like at 12 in the afternoon, and we were kind of like not doing anything, like we were kind of just like eating and sleeping and like training sometimes. And it was kind of like difficult in that moment. And now like I really think that my dog is like my angel. I'm sorry to say it, maybe it's a little bit cheesy, but like that he kind of gave some like something to our lives, like we didn't really have anything. Like it was pretty funny because we were always traveling, so we didn't have in the house, we didn't have any plans, we didn't have any like anything to worry about, and now that we're here, we got some plans, we got a dog with like we met some of our neighbors, because we've been living here for like 3 years, and we didn't know anyone. And yeah, now we are like we feel that we belong here, and I think that it's also like you said, it's positive that we have a break.
Yeah, and I'm glad it has happened that way, and that you guys have sort of had your own time now to enjoy the finer things in life in some sort of way, and enjoy that, dog and family life. Obviously, being a newly married couple as well, having the time to actually just enjoy that, because that's a very special moment in both you and Mike's life, and it's kind of, that's a positive thing that COVID has brought on, I suppose.
Yeah, like you said, like we had time to get married and stuff like that. We like how our season, like we got engaged in February, and they were kind of like, oh, maybe we can get married in 2022. And
Yeah,
we
fair
get
enough.
married in August, so it's yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's awesome. Stephen, anything from you more?
No, I could just launch you down another tangent and keep you for an hour and a half. But I think for the sake of our audience, we should probably wrap it up there. I guess that's my job. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this. It's been really, really interesting, and
No, thank you.
and I hope our viewers got something from that. Yeah, you've had a really interesting journey, and it's far from over yet. So I hope that we do get a 2020 at some point, and yeah, thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for like allowing me to get in your houses and have a good time. I hope that you guys enjoyed it because I did, and yeah, I hope to see you guys soon.
Awesome.
Thanks, Gabby. One of the final questions that the compounders kept asking Mike last week is, in a post-COVID world, would he put coming to New Zealand on his bucket list? And on behalf of the recurvers, I think I would like to ask if you would also put coming to New Zealand on your bucket list in a post-COVID world.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Like I really like. I always hear good things about New Zealand from Riku. So I'm always like, hey, I need to meet your wife. I need to meet the kids. And like, why not meeting you guys as well? Like, I feel like if we're there, we're going to bring our bow. So
Fantastic.
we hope that we can go soon.
Yeah, the chat is just blowing up with lots of thank yous. Our audience really appreciates you taking this time out. We really do on behalf of Archery New Zealand. It's just awesome. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
No, thank you guys.
Thanks. Bye for now.
Thanks Gabby.
Everyone.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias.